1,
2,
2,
3.
Tops TV!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Auto Shenanigans and welcome to episode 11 of all the Motorway service stations. It is Friday the 10th of September, approximately 9:30 in the morning, and you join me at Burtonwood Services. For the more observant amongst you, you'll probably notice behind me the lack of service station. That is because we are on the side that was demolished in 2009. We shall come back to that in a short while, but to kick us off, the eastbound side, which is still open, opened in 1974. And first off, the building design is worth a mention. The green tiles on the roof are actually made of copper, and that's of course where oxidation, whichever it is, has happened over the years, turning them green. And out the front you might notice the 4 flagpoles which sit there without any flags flying. They were an idea that Welcome Break introduced in the early 90s. The idea being that they would have the Union flag, the Welcome Break flag, the Forte flag, and also the Queen's Award flag. Welcome Break and the Forte group have long since split up, so the flagpoles just sit there doing very little. And yes, back to the westbound side, as I mentioned, it has been completely demolished. It went in 2009, but if you have a look around the back, you can still find the odd item left over from when the service station was still here. So there's bits of tarmac, curbstones, and if you look carefully enough, you'll find the old motorway slip road that leads you back onto the, I think it's the roundabout, and then onto the motorway. Underneath the motorway sits an abandoned subway which used to link the two sides. That's of course now gated off, but again, if you are prepared to look hard enough through the bushes like we were, you will find it, although it looks like the tunnel has flooded, so I think access is pretty much a no-go now. So oddly for us, it's fair to say that the westbound side is a little bit more interesting, despite the fact it's pretty much just a pile of rubble now. The eastbound is fairly typical Welcome Break affair with the usual amenities other than the building design. That side doesn't really have a lot to speak of. It is worth noting that the westbound did have an equal building on this side, same design and everything else. They just knocked it down. Heartless Welcome Break, heartless. But at least we kept one, so that's okay. This is the old back entrance, if you will, to the service station. It's all sealed off from the road, and you can probably see just behind a Starbucks has been built, cutting this off pretty much indefinitely. But it's a good example of some of the infrastructure that remains from when the services was here. Yes, good morning once again, and you join us in the car. Good morning to Aidan, the transport manager.
Good morning.
Good to see you. If this is your first time joining us, thanks very much indeed. We're on a mission to visit every motorway service station in the UK. You're probably joining the party a little bit late, for we have now done 82 service stations out of 95. In our last episode, we ended our Birch services on the M62, and today we're back on at the M62, starting our Burtonwood services, which we've just seen. There's only half of that left. In today's episode, we have 9 service stations lined up. Obviously, we've just seen Burtonwood, so that is 1 less to worry about, giving us 8 to do. It may look like I've just had a quick shower, but it is simply because, well, 2 reasons. It's raining, and I'm tragically unfit, as we have already established on this channel. So a mixture of that and rain means that I'm pretty much soaked through already. I've had fun traipsing through the bushes, trying to find all of those sort of odd abandoned obscurities of service stations that you do. This is the effort and the trouble that we go to. So I hope you enjoy the episode.
I'm a Tots, Tom,
Tiny
with a Tots and Tots TV. 1, 2, 3, boom! I'm a Tots.
Right, we've arrived at stop number 2, the only service station on the M56 Chester services, currently operated by RoadChef. It opened in 1978 as Hapsford Rest Area or Picnic Area. It wasn't until 1998 that it was actually fully upgraded to a service station. We found these Russian Wolf crisps. What are these? Does anybody know? I don't even know what language this is. Okay, service station number 2 done. That was Chester services. We've picked up some breakfast. We're going to have that on the move. Not much to see there, to be honest with you. A fairly short and sweet trip to Chester, but it's a fairly decent service station. And so we're going to get the hell out of Dodge and go on to our next stop, Knutsford, which will take us back up. Thank you, friends, for messaging me, but you're ruining my film work. Service station number 3, Knutsford services, just on the M6, operated by Moto. It opened in 1963 and later on in 1986 plans were drawn up to turn the nearby A556 into a motorway. The result of that would have been the services needing to have been demolished and rebuilt, and interestingly that was actually seen as a good thing because the services here has always been considered quite small, overcrowded, and it's quite old now, and if they put the motorway in it would have been a good excuse to upgrade everything and change the things that didn't quite work about the site. However, as with a lot of these sort of projects, it never came to fruition, and whilst a few small minor upgrades have been made to some of the sort of inroads, outroads, etc., it still remains pretty much the small overcrowded services that it's always been considered. That said, I'm sure it's just as lovely as all the other service stations. There is a walkway bridge, so I shall of course be going to have a little look around there. Right, service station number 3 done. That was Knutsford. Just a quick look around there. There isn't really much to talk about or see, and the site manager was giving me that look of, why are you here and filming? Please leave. Anyway, that aside, we're going to rejoin the M6 South and head down to Sandbach or Sandbach services. Either of those two. That is service station number 4, so we shall see you there. Right, we're at service station number 4, Sandbach Services, which is operated by RoadChef, still on the M6 southbound. In 1963, the bulldozers rolled in and flattened the site in preparation for a service station. However, it wasn't until 1975 that they actually completed building it. This is a really good example of a success story when it comes to service stations. If you check out episode 7, somewhere around there, the previous site we looked at, Hatfield, was a failed service station site where they allocated the land and built these slip roads for it, but no service station was ever built. Sandbach was the opposite, where they had allocated the land, the space, and the slip roads were built, etc., and they actually built the service station here as originally planned, so a rare example of a success story. Not much to note here really, it's a usual RoadChef service station. The walkway bridge across the motorway is certainly quite odd. It has a covered design which makes it rather dark and dingy inside and almost claustrophobic. The bridge is painted in probably what was a rather striking RoadChef red. I think it's fair to say it's faded over the years and might be due for a touch-up. And finally, in 1992, Sandbach made the headlines because there were repeated instances of acid-based raves and parties occurring in the car park. I'm pleased to say that currently at about 12:30 it's not the case. Right, service station number 4 of 9 done. We are about to join the M6 heading southbound again, probably into a massive traffic jam it looks like, and our next stop will be Keele services whenever it is that we get there. Service station number 5 for today. We are at Keele services just on the M6 southbound. It seems we're sat on the M6 all day so far. Not much to see here really. Fairly typical welcome break affair. In 1984 a fire broke out between the two bridge supports which rendered it almost useless, and for a moment I was worried that there wouldn't be a bridge, but there is satisfactorily. It's just down the road from Keele University, which has led to the back entrance being labelled as probably the most abused back entrance out of all of the service stations. As a result, in as early as 1977, they installed electronic bollards to prevent people using the exit and entrance. And apparently reports to this day have shown that it's made absolutely no difference whatsoever. Right, service station number 5 out of 9 done. It's not particularly interesting here, I'm afraid to say. There's not many facts or interesting things I have to show you. So we are going to crack on to our next stop. We'll be picking up the M6 southbound once again and heading to Stafford services next. Welcome to Stafford Services, operated by RoadChef. It opened in 1999 and was the first motorway service station to gain a Costa Coffee outlet, which opened in the year 2000. I imagine it's still there. You may remember in a previous episode where we looked at Strensham services, the site is actually split, so they're roughly about sort of half a mile apart, north and southbound sides. It's actually the same situation here. And that came about because in the 90s, Granada were drawing up plans to build a service station up the road from here opposite the current northbound site. And whilst that was happening, Blue Ball was drawing up plans to open a service station here where we are now. Obviously, only one company could win to build the service station, and Blue Ball won the contract. But as a result, the service stations, north and southbound, are separated. When they built the service stations, they allowed enough space for the motorway to be widened, but it wasn't until 2019 that actually happened. Oh, he broke the lens. Stafford is a fairly typical example of a RoadChef services, perfectly nice and quaint. There is a lovely pond outside the front with a fountain. Did you think it was lovely?
Sure, yeah, it's probably better than some.
Exactly. We were looking at a pile of rubble earlier, so it is fair to say this is probably better than that. But we've been a little bit short of interesting things to look at this episode. I do apologise, that's just the way it is sometimes. We are on a mission to visit them all, whether they're interesting or not. However, coming up next, 6-metre industrial steam hammers. RoadChef have these wonderful bins where you can launch your stuff direct into them from the car. He shoots, he scores! Ooh, 7 Series. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at Telford Services after what was a lovely, pleasant drive through the countryside. Can you even hear me over the rain? Probably not. Anyway, we'll have a look around, hopefully when the rain stops. So, never. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely at Telford Services. The weather is terrible still, so I am hiding in the car. Telford's just off the M54 and operated by Welcome Break. It was first proposed in 1985, but it wasn't until a good while later, around 2003, that it actually opened. Now, don't worry, I know I promised you 6-metre high industrial steam hammers, and that is coming. I'm just waiting for the weather to improve somewhat. Not to worry, ladies and gentlemen, for I am prepared. That is correct. You join me in my umbrella, which will probably help a little. There we are, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, 6-metre high industrial steam hammer just casually sat at the side of the service station car park. The steam hammer, 1917. Do not climb on the steam hammer. So why an industrial steam hammer at a service station, you're asking? A very good question indeed. I have the answer. So when the service station opened some time ago, they had a bit more space to play with, so they filled a lot of the gaps with things like this steam hammer and other artifacts and exhibits, if you will, that were donated from local museums, old iron mines and whatever else it would be. So this place used to have quite a lot more to see. However, in 2010 they extended the car park to allow for more car parking space, obviously, and in doing so a lot of the items were actually removed, which is a bit of a shame. But obviously this one, too big, too heavy, couldn't be bothered. They left it in place, but of course that works quite nicely for us. I believe this would be the museum group that donated the exhibits to the service station. Apparently, I haven't got the proper microphone on, so I apologise for the audio, but apparently this is a piece of rock that was used to build the M54. Except it isn't, is it? Because it's here and not on the M54, but was dug out of a hill just by Junction 7, I am reading on the information card that's just out of shot. If you're a little bit sneaky and have a look around the back, you might find the fishing lakes that are situated behind these services, which makes for quite a nice little bit of scenery enjoyment, if you will. 7 down, 2 to go, so not long left of the day for us. Our next stop is... well, I'm not actually sure yet. It's either Norton Canes or Hilton Park, but I can't decide whether we go and do the Norton Canes services, which is on the M6 toll road first, or if we do Hilton Park. Depends which is easiest for us to get home afterwards, I suppose. But coming up next, one of those two service stations. We decided to do Hilton Park next, so welcome to Hilton Park, operated by Moto, just off the M6. It opened in 1970, and back then the company that sort of dealt with the design and build of it top rank had a bit of a thing for interesting architecture. I don't know if you can see behind me, but it almost resembles a control tower at an airport, and the original plan was to create a tower that was quite high, Unfortunately, due to planning regulations, they had to build it a lot shorter, so the view barely clears the tree line, which unfortunately for a nice scenic view doesn't really work. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, access up there predictably is closed off to the public. Dear Moto, can we have a tour of this one? Interestingly, the architects who are responsible for the buildings you see behind me were also responsible for the buildings over at Lancaster Services, also known as Fortin. They have the Pennine Tower, which we featured in our last episode. Fun fact, in 1975, Aston Villa football fans clashed with Manchester United football fans, and a bit of a row ensued, causing multiple thousands of pounds worth of damage. So we just saw service station number 8 out of 9, Hilton Park. I actually quite liked that building design. I don't know what it is about it, but it looked quite interesting. Lovely spiral staircase inside and a few other interesting things of note. We have now come down the road to Norton Canes services, just on the M6 toll road. First things first, you do need to pay to get in, unfortunately. It's on the M6 toll road, so I think it's, what, £6 for a car or something extortionate like that. So, as I said, we're at Norton Canes, which is operated by RoadChef and opened in at 2004. I don't know if you can see the lovely deer behind me, but we already got some nice shots of that. Boom. Mad zoom lens. Norton Canes is built on relatively quite a large site, about 68 acres or so, and they put a lot of effort into landscaping it, putting a little viewpoint in. I think there's a fountain somewhere as well, so if you've got the dog with you, fancy a little bit of a walk or something like that, this is, yeah, pretty decent in that respect. The rain has absolutely started coming down, so before I continue the rest of my interesting facts on Norton Canes, we're going to run back to the car because I'm woefully underprepared for such weather. Right, we are sheltering in the car from the rain, but just a couple more things on Norton Canes. Inside the main building, it's described as having a Scandinavian airport terminal sort of look and feel, so we'll go and have a wander around and see if that's the case. I've never been to a Scandinavian airport, have you?
Not that I can remember, maybe.
No, so we're probably not the best to judge as to whether they've achieved that or not, but we shall report back on that.
Been to IKEA, does that count?
IKEA. Yes, it probably does. Back when it opened, you could actually get table service at the restaurant here. If you came down after 6 o'clock, you could enjoy a lovely meal, obviously all served upon and waited upon like any other restaurant. Like all crazy ideas at service stations, that probably was stopped after 6 months because they certainly don't do it nowadays. This site does very well in customer satisfaction surveys. It consistently scores very highly. I think currently ranks as 4th best services in the country. If you've been seeing some B-roll footage over the narratives that I've been giving, you'll know that I managed to make it from the car to the service station to grab all the final footage that we needed for it. If you're still staring at my face, then well, I'm sorry about that, but the rain was just a little bit too much for me. So that is 9 out of 9 for today and brings our episode pretty much to a close. Thank you very much indeed for watching. We do appreciate it. Hit the old like and subscribe buttons for me. That would be absolutely wonderful indeed. Thank you very much. We have now done 91 out of 95 service stations. There are 4 remaining, which we shall have a look at in our grand finale episode to mark the end of this absolute fantastic series, adventure and mission that we've been doing. So until then, enjoy your week. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We shall see you next time for more service stations and more auto shenanigans. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye. Oh, mind the thing, mind the thing, mind the thing, mind the thing, mind the thing. Oh, you're not minding the thing.
Don't do that.